Today marks the third anniversary of Armenia's capitulation in the Second Karabakh War. The act of capitulation was signed by the Prime Minister of Armenia. Thus, on September 27, 2020, the Azerbaijani army, under the leadership of Supreme Commander-in-Chief Ilham Aliyev, launched a counter-offensive for the liberation of the lands held under Armenian occupation for nearly 30 years. A counter-offensive against Armenia's military was launched in all directions. During the war, the Azerbaijani army liberated its lands from the enemy, village by village, and city by city. The enemy, who occupied the ancestral lands that Azerbaijanis were displaced from, was defeated on the battlefield. The surviving militants were expelled from Azerbaijani lands. Every day, joyful news came from the front, which was reported to the people by the Supreme Commander-in-Chief, President Ilham Aliyev. Azerbaijani servicemen, who achieved new victories every day, not only defeated and drove out the Armenian occupiers from Azerbaijani lands, but they also began to use the military equipment and ammunition seized from the enemy as spoils against the Armenians themselves. The heroism and bravery displayed by the Azerbaijani army on the battlefield shook the enemy to the core. Armenian servicemen, unable to stand up to this heroism, began to flee not only from the battlefield, but also from the army. This is the reason why the number of fugitives in the Armenian army in the Second Karabakh War was tens of thousands. The liberation of several settlements by the Azerbaijani army on the first day of hostilities caused panic and fear among the enemy. Enemy soldiers were being killed at every step. They decided to cut their losses and retreat. During the 44-day war, 5 cities, 4 settlements, and 286 villages were liberated, including Jabrail city and 90 villages of the region, Fuzuli city and 53 villages of the region, Zangilan city, Minjivan, Agband, Bartaz settlements and 52 villages of the region, Hadrut settlement and 35 villages of Kojavan region, 3 villages of Tartar region, Gubardli city and 41 villages of the region, 9 villages of Kojali region, Shushar city, several villages of Lachin region, as well as several strategic heights in the direction of Agdara and more of Dak, and in Zangilan Bartaz, Sayat, Shukuratas heights, and 5 more unnamed heights were liberated. The liberation of Shushar by the Azerbaijani army on November 8 resulted in a decisive victory. Seeing the depletion of both personnel and military equipment and ammunition, the Armenian military political leadership, realizing its defeat, has agreed to sign a ceasefire document. Thus, the brave Azerbaijani army, under the leadership of victorious Supreme Commander-in-Chief, President Ilham Aliyev, forced Armenia to sign an act of capitulation. On November 10, the President of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, the Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan, and the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, signed an agreement calling for a ceasefire and an end to all military operations in the conflict. This put an end to the Armenian-Azerbaijani Karabakh conflict. According to the agreement, the Akdam, Kelbadjar, and Lachin districts were peacefully returned to Azerbaijan. Initially, the statement was expected to be signed by the presidents of the 3 countries via video conference. However, the Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan, refused to sign the trilateral agreement in front of the world community. He later signed the act of capitulation in secret. Armenia did not fulfill its obligations in the agreement it signed. The tripartite agreement signed on November 10, 2020, clearly states that Armenia must withdraw its forces from the Karabakh region in conjunction with the deployment of Russian peacekeepers. However, Armenia has continued to support illegal paramilitary groups in the sovereign territory of Azerbaijan for about 3 years. Moreover, the positions of the Azerbaijani army were being systematically encroached upon by the illegal Armenian paramilitary groups in the Karabakh region of Azerbaijan. The territories were being mined, and various violations were being committed. Taking this into account, on September 19 of this year, local anti-terrorist measures were launched in the region in order to ensure the provisions of the trilateral declaration, prevent large-scale provocations in the Karabakh region, disarm and withdraw the Armenian armed forces units from our territories, neutralize their military infrastructure, ensure the safety of civilians returning to the liberated territories and the civil workers and military personnel involved in the reconstruction work, and restore the constitutional structure of the Republic of Azerbaijan. During the measures that lasted for a little more than 23 hours, the positions of the Armenian armed forces on the front line and in-depth and long-term firing points, as well as combat vehicles and military objects, were destroyed by the use of high-precision weapons. The enemy raised a white flag. With this, the constitutional structure was restored in all territories of Azerbaijan. On October 15, the head of state visited Konkonti city, Kojavand, Shusha, Kojali, Agdara districts, and the Askaran fortress, and raised the Azerbaijani flag there. On present day, the glorious tricolour flag of Azerbaijan is flying over Karabakh.